we see often that our equipment changes people's lives. I think that's why I'm so passionate about it, is we're very fortunate that we can see people that really had very little. They save and put money together as a family, and then they will end up being able to support their kids to go to school, to build businesses, to build opportunities for themselves.
Hello everybody, and welcome back to another great episode of the Leadership Lens. Today we have a wonderful guest with us by the name of JJ. I'm not going to go ahead and try and pronounce the whole thing in the hopes of not butchering it too bad, and he's given me permission just to introduce him as JJ. But JJ and I have been friends and acquaintances for a couple of years now, and very much appreciate him taking some time and being on the show today. Incredibly interesting background, doing some really amazing things on the global stage within corporate America. So I'm excited to dig a little bit into that. And just for a little bit of background here, JJ is the president of emerging markets at Wood-Mizer, which is the world's largest manufacturer of portable band sawmills and a wide range of wood processing equipment sold in over 120 countries worldwide. So again, thank you very much for being here. If you wouldn't mind, I'm going to jump right into kind of the main question, and that is for people who don't know what the president of emerging markets means. Would you mind just giving us a little bit of background on kind of what exactly you're responsible for over at Wood-Mizer?
Perfect, Taylor, and thank you so much for having me. Yeah, so President of the Emerging Markets, I'm responsible for looking after Africa, Asia, and Oceania. Oceania is not typically seen as an emerging markets area, but it's an area that we consider underdeveloped in opportunity, so we've put that under my responsibility. So I oversee our own entities in that region, seven branches and operations, and then 45 dealerships. Spanning Asia, Africa, and Oceania.
That's impressive. So, as somebody who has all these different locations, you live in the Midwest here in the United States and have for some time. I mean, just right off the bat, how do you go about managing all that in kind of a remote environment? Are you traveling all the time? I mean, there's all these time zones. How do you even kind of keep your head on straight with all the different areas you're responsible for?
I think, I get up very early in the morning and I have busy evenings as well, but I do travel extensively. So what I try and do is get into the regions, go see the team and visit customers and visit our dealers. But I'll be out probably a minimum of once every 2 months. I'm in a different region around the world.
Has the travel airline stuff messed with you too bad that we've had here recently?
It's been interesting, to be honest with you, but you become a seasoned traveler, kind of going to travel mode where you kind of think about just getting to the destination, whatever it takes, you're going to get there. Traveling is like everything. You become hardened to it and you learn how to handle all of these challenges.
Well, I know you spent some time in Africa, and not just some time, quite a bit of time, and that's one of the emerging markets that's under your umbrella today. Can you just give us a little bit of background as to kind of how you got involved in Africa, what you were responsible for then? I know you like to do a lot of talent development and whatnot, which we'll kind of get into, but just tell us a little bit about your background of working actually in Africa and about what that experience was like. I don't think too many people that are going to be watching this maybe have even never been to Africa, but certainly have not worked within Africa.
So I think, I am a South African, so I was born in South Africa, grew up there, but I really kind of moved my career forward by becoming one of Wood-Mizer's customers. I originally worked for the dealership in South Africa, and then I decided to go and open my own entity in Zambia, which is in Central Africa. So I started my own sawmilling business and a joinery factory manufacturing doors and windows, and also had a farm. What people don't realize is Africa, how big Africa is. When you look at the world map, you think, it's the same size as the United States. Well, actually, the United States fits into Africa with Western Europe and China. So it's an enormous continent. I always talk to people about it needs respect. It's not a dark continent. There are no people that aren't business people in Africa. Because of the lack of support from governments, there is a big focus on everyone having to have the ability to make money. So you're dealing with people that are very business focused. Our smallest sawmill that we sell that is seen as a hobbyist sawmill here in the United States or in Europe is seen as a business opportunity. and everyone has an entrepreneurial mindset. So when you develop talent, you have to have people that understand that just because it's not as developed in terms of infrastructure as in first world countries, it doesn't mean that it's simplistic business. These are numerous countries that have different ways of doing business. They're very smart people, and they deserve a lot of respect.
When you talk about some of the Wood-Mizer products being used within Africa and those people, you mentioned something that struck me, which is, what might be kind of a hobbyist tool here in America, they see as a business opportunity. So can you just talk to me a little bit more about that? So someone has one of these tools sold by Wood-Mizer, and that individual now can start their own business using that, and that's pretty common.
Yeah, absolutely. So what you'll often see is families will put money together to go and buy a piece of equipment, and then they will support that startup. Once they've created enough money from that business, they'll then fund another part of the family to buy the similar equipment. We see often that our equipment changes people's lives. I think that's why I'm so passionate about it, is we're very fortunate that we can see people that really had very little. They save and put money together as a family, and then they will end up being able to support their kids to go to school, to build businesses, to build opportunities for themselves. I have a wonderful tale as well as our dealer in Zambia. He started by catching a bus down to our office in Johannesburg and buying 2 boxes of blades, and then jumping on the bus, driving back. Now you're talking about not a one-day little bus trip. You're talking 4 or 5 days on a bus to go sell those 2 boxes of blades. He now has 2 kids at university that he paid for from the fact of having a dealership. He's expanded his operations. He's got 9 branches in Zambia. Just a really amazing entrepreneurial mindset, So that's the nice thing about our products, is you give people opportunities and they can take it and grow something substantially.
That's a spectacular story. That's a really, really, really great story, and how much success and just kind of hard work that takes in. And on a little bit of the back of the Wood-Mizer product and the Wood-Mizer brand, which is amazing, but obviously that individual had to go out of his way to kind of make that happen, but much success to him. So that's spectacular.
Absolutely.
When you use the term Oceanian, I think a couple. What region exactly is that? I'm thinking like Philippines and stuff like that. Is that correct?
Yeah, no. So Oceania is Australia, New Zealand, Fiji, French Polynesia, New Caledonia. So it's the islands surrounding Papua New Guinea, surrounding Australia. So that region is it's Oceania Pac. So Philippines falls into Asia. That's Southeast Asia. But yeah, great opportunities as well. Oceania continues to grow for us. I think it's all markets. The more you focus on it, the better the results are. And local partnerships are massively important. Finding people that you can work with, not just as dealers, but as employees. Finding local talent is massively important, and we've been very fortunate with that in Oceania.
So you've got these different regions, these different cultures. Obviously, you're quite familiar, or at least much of what's in Africa, but some of these other areas where maybe you haven't spent an enormous amount of time living for years and years at a time, and really getting to be super intimate with a lot of the people. You're doing these trips and whatnot, which I understand, but one of the things I talk with my clients a lot about is just culture fit of the talent and how important that is. And you being someone who's leading a lot of these businesses overseas, you may not always come from the same culture that they do. So how do you bridge that gap, and how do you speak to different cultures appropriately in a way in which they'll respond positively to and be fully understanding of? How do you have to change your mindset, or even just your way of speaking?
So I think one of the things is relationships are so important outside. They're important in the United States, but I find in the United States everything kind of works. You don't have to rely on people as much as you do outside in the markets that I work in. So relationships, local relationships are really important. So I think if you go in with a level of respect, you need to do your homework to understand, what the local culture is. As simple as how you hand a business card out in Japan is massively important. Understanding when you give a gift to someone, what's culturally correct. The color, whether it has a brand on it, the realities of whether it's appropriate to give a gift or not. All of these things you need to investigate. And there are quite a few consultancy firms out there that we work with to gather that information with. But what I find is industry is small. If you start just talking to people about, hey, I'm thinking about doing business in the Philippines, for instance, you'll find that there's a lot of people wanting to do the same thing, set up business, that know people that you can then get some information on to decide how it's best to go into the market. But I think respect is honestly the most important thing. If you go in with a respectful attitude, people will forgive you for many of your smaller sins.
So I'm trying to kind of narrow this down a little bit as to what maybe like a core principle of working internationally would be. And as someone that doesn't work internationally, this is a little bit of a new kind of world for me. I mean, would you say that just generally respecting people is the best kind of core business process that you can have to working internationally? Or, do you really need to go out and understand the culture more deeply? Or can it just be narrowed down to respecting those people?
I think, having an open attitude to different cultures is massively important. That comes down to respect. So I would say yes, respect. But, I even think about a meal. If someone invites you for a meal on a business trip overseas, you need to understand that you're probably going to be challenged in terms of what you're going to eat. But if you are open to trying it and being respectful to the fact that they've making this effort for you, good things will happen. I always think of, I was in Cameroon and we were in the middle of deep in the jungle, and there was a radio host that had come to see our do the installation, and they went, Africa, there's a lot of poor people, so the hunt for protein is a big deal. And these people went to huge effort to make this meal for us, put a table out for us. Frankly, the food, I didn't know what I was eating, but the fact that I sat down, I did my best, but they could see that I didn't know what I was eating, and I just followed suit to what people were doing. It went a long way in terms of them being open to doing more business with us. So having an open attitude and respecting the fact of the effort that people put in, I think goes a long way.
Switching gears a little bit here. Also, that's a great story. My parents instilled in me at a very young age. I'd go, I don't want to try that, I don't want that. They'd go, just take a bite, just take one bite, and then you can decide if you like it or not. And
exactly.
More often than not, I didn't like it, but that really stuck with me, and now I pretty much try everything at least once, no matter what it is. But what would you say from an international, global footprint business like your own, and one that you are so intimately involved with, what is one of the most difficult or challenging things today in running a multinational global organization?
So I think there are a number of challenges. Logistics at the moment are a massive challenge. With the current political situation in Europe is having a major impact in terms of freight movement around the world. So having to plan to make sure that you've got the right stock in the right place at the right time is a massive issue. And then, perception about where the economies are going creates instability, and people get very concerned about investing. So no business likes instability. So creating a situation where you can react to markets changing is a big challenge. One of the nice things about being a global corporation is what we say is where the lights go out in one place, the lights go on in another place. It's very seldom that you'll have the whole global economy shutting down in one go. So the benefits of being in so many countries is that you have opportunities in markets where things aren't cooling down. The other side of that is it's very difficult to manage. You have forex variances, you have political challenges. Not all countries are as stable as the United States. So there are many variances there that create challenges on a day-to-day basis. People are facing huge challenges in different countries that you might not have the experience in understanding. But it has a massive impact in their mindset and their ability to remain focused at work. So I think I was thinking a little bit about before we were going to chat. What would I say? The calmest person wins. In an international market situation, just taking your time, standing good local partners that can give you good advice, and then you having a bigger picture to understand that they might be in a dark place at the moment, but you understand the wider picture. That can really help.
I have to stay on that for just 1 second because I try and do something very similar. In my world, I have hiring teams on one side, it's all people. I have candidates on the other side, and it's all people. So I'm in a very, very human business. There's no doubt about it. And that emotional intelligence and that understanding to say, maybe I had kind of a weird call with somebody, and I used to get real riled up about that. It used to throw me off for hours or days even at a time. And I've started to just kind of put myself in the feeling of, well, they might just be having a really bad day. They might be going through something. I don't actually know. And I've become very, very forgiving of human beings over the years, especially in private life for sure, but in my corporate life, to say, I feel like sometimes as human beings, we take what someone says or how they say it very personally and we internalize it. And sometimes it's just surface loads. Hey, that person was having a rough day. Maybe they just got in a fight with somebody or their kid is sick, or you never really know. And we don't always ask those questions, and sometimes it's not appropriate to do that. So you just have to kind of go along with it and hope that everything is good on there and, check in when it is appropriate, but totally understanding that. Staying on people real quick. So you've got these teams that are across the globe, and you're only one man. You can't have hundreds or thousands maybe even of direct reports. You need to have leaders that are on site in these different locations that are managing the day-to-day. Now, in your role, these are different cultures, these are different people, there's all these kind of different aspects for you to manage. When it comes to hiring managers, leaders, whatever the case may be, how much leeway do the on-prem professionals have in making that decision versus you or maybe other people that are in America, in Indiana? How much leeway do you have in those hiring decisions? Does it come down to an interview process and they say, hey, JJ, this is the person we like the most? Or do they come and say, these are our two people, you make the decision on the one you like more? What's that process look like?
So I think I've been very fortunate that we have developed an amazing team in the emerging markets group, and I trust my management team. So I like to meet every employee that we hire. To be honest with you, we're not big enough that I can't be involved in that. And our culture is very important to us. So I don't believe you hire the best person, you hire the right person. And I know that sounds counterintuitive, but you've got to have someone that's going to work well within the culture and well within the team. We as a leadership group talk about focusing on making decisions together. Sometimes at the end, the most senior person has to make the decision, but I feel very comfortable that they will give me enough feedback that I can ask some questions, and if I feel comfortable that they've gone through the process correctly, and we have a pretty stringent process in terms of hiring people, I will leave the final decision with them.
That's great. What do you miss the most about living in Africa?
Oh, well, at the moment it's the weather, because in December it's our summertime. So typically in December I would be on the beach for Christmas Day. But I have to say we've been very blessed to move to America. I keep telling everyone, for a lot of people around the world, moving to the United States is a dream, so I never take that for granted. What I miss the familiarity of understanding all of the sports. I'm a rugby player, so football I kind of get, but I don't get it completely. And then the familiarity of knowing where to go on holiday and the friendship circles. But again, we've been very fortunate to make some really amazing friends here. Happiness is a choice. You can decide to be looking backwards, or you can decide to look forward. So we always feel like we've gained more than we lost, and I'm very fortunate that I can travel back to South Africa for business, but I can always get in to get one of the bits of food that I miss, or the friends that I haven't seen. I can pop in and see them while I'm on a business trip.
Well, I work with some international businesses, and a lot of the ones that I work with, America is actually not where corporate sits. They're in one of the different markets, if you will, and it's not a crazy amount of time. A lot of them allow their individual countries or regions to operate independently, but there are times in which the corporate entity will make a decision that has to be followed throughout all of the areas within the business and all of the countries. When it comes to communicating those decisions, which, sometimes are welcome, sometimes they're not so welcome because it's going to change operations and the way things go. Is there any best practices that you have for communicating that to the other regions to say, hey, we understand you, we heard you, but at the end of the day, this is what has been decided by corporate and we would like to progress, and, all in all, it's your job to fall in line, but you want to say that in such a way that they feel respected and everything else. Do you have a playbook for that or anything you like to keep in mind?
So I think it depends what the message is. If it's serious enough, sometimes it entails you going and having the conversation face to face. So I think the severity or the importance of the message, sometimes, we have a new CEO, and that's not a meet and greet that you do over Teams, to be honest with you. So we are flying to South Africa in January, very excited about it, for him to spend time with the team, because that's important. And as he settles in, he'll be going around the world, meeting teams around the world. So those sorts of things I say face to face. An email is one of the things about, I would say, outside of the United States, is business is far more formal. Even not necessarily in dress code, but in terms of just positions count, titles count a lot, and they're very, very important. So when you receive an email from a managing director, it's a significant moment. So you need to understand the weight and the gravitas of sending an email and making sure that it's clear and concise, because if there's any ambiguity in it, people are going to be reading that as if it's from a very senior person, and it can have a major impact. So my advice is to get advice from the local person that's in the business, running the business, and say, hey, obviously you've got to have a strong enough relationship with them to be able to be confide in them. But I would lean on them and ask them for what's the best way, in your opinion, to get this message across, so that it's appropriate, it's concise, it's clear, and then follow up importantly afterwards to make sure that there hasn't been any misunderstandings or misgivings that you haven't been able to resolve.
Spectacular. Well, some really, really great advice. You've got a highly, highly interesting profession and role within Wood-Mizer. They're very, very lucky to have you. I'm lucky to have you on the show today. So again, I appreciate you coming on. I look forward to staying in touch moving forward. And again, thank you for your time.
Taylor, thank you so much. Have a great day.
You as well.